I never used to check the perimeter of my house before going to bed. I never thought I had to. But after what happened at Blackwood Creek, the silence of the night doesn't feel like peace anymore. It feels like something holding its breath. My name is Johnny Voss. Last October, I took my wife Madeline and our daughter Cynthia camping at a place the locals call The Hollow. I told Madeline I wanted to reconnect as a family, get away from screens and stress. What I didn't tell her was that I'd been having the dreams again, the same ones I'd had 10 years ago, right before I left this town and never looked back. We were 6 miles off the main trail. No cell service, no rangers, just us and the pines. As I unloaded the SUV, I felt that prickle on my neck, the kind you get when you're being watched through a scope. I looked toward the ridge, and for a split second I saw it, a figure in a white shirt standing perfectly still between the trees. Too tall, too rigid. I told Madeline it was just a birch tree catching the light. I told myself I was being paranoid. That was my first mistake. By sunset, the fire was roaring. Cynthia was giggling as her marshmallow caught fire, and for a moment I actually forgot about the ridge. Then I heard boots on gravel. A man emerged from the tree line, not from the trail, but from the thick brush directly behind our tent. He was wearing the same flannel shirt I'd been wearing in the dream. "Evening, Johnny," he said quietly. His voice had the same flat affect as a hostage reading a script. He didn't look at my face, he looked at my left hand, at my wedding ring. Then he glanced at his watch, then back at my hand. Every 15 seconds, like clockwork. "Keep the fire bright tonight. They can't cross the light, not until it's time." Madeline offered him coffee. He didn't acknowledge her. He just sat on a log across from me, staring, glancing at his watch, staring. After 20 minutes of silence, he stood up and walked back into the woods. I didn't hear a single footstep. No leaves, no twigs, just the crackle of the fire filling the space where he'd been. "Who was that?" Madeline whispered. "I don't know," I lied. His name was Vaughn, and 10 years ago, I'd left him to die. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of something wet hitting the tent. The fire had burned down to embers. I grabbed my flashlight and unzipped the door, and the cold hit me like a fist. Hanging from the oak tree above our SUV was a squirrel. It had been gutted, tied with fishing line, and positioned so it was staring directly into the driver's side window. Its mouth had been propped open with a twig. Inside its mouth was my car key. I heard Madeline gasp behind me. "Johnny, what the hell is—" "Get Cynthia, get in the car, now!" I ran to the tree and cut the squirrel down, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the knife. The key was slick with blood. As I turned back toward the tent, my flashlight swept across the ground. There were footprints everywhere. Dozens of them, bare feet in the mud, circling our campsite in concentric rings. Some of them were small, child-sized. They'd been inches from the tent, inches from Cynthia. And in the center of the circle, pressed into the dirt, was a single word written in white stones. Voss. I loaded Madeline and Cynthia into the SUV and turned the key. The engine sputtered, died. I tried again. Nothing. "Johnny, what's happening?" Madeline's voice cracked. I didn't answer. I was staring at the hood of the car. Someone had carved something into the paint with a knife. It was still fresh. "He keeps what he's owed." "We run," I said. "We follow the trail back to the main road. Stay close, don't stop." We made it maybe half a mile before Cynthia started crying. "Daddy, my feet hurt." I picked her up and kept moving. The woods were silent. No wind, no animals, just our breath and the crunch of our boots on the trail.
Then I heard it. Footsteps behind us, matching our pace exactly. I turned, shining my light into the dark. Nothing. But when I turned back around, Vaughn was standing in the middle of the trail, 20 feet ahead. He wasn't out of breath. He wasn't sweating. He was just there. "You can't outrun a debt, Johnny," he said. "You know that." "I don't know you anything," I said, my voice shaking. Vaughn smiled. It wasn't a human expression. It was something wearing the memory of one. "October 12th, 2015, he said. "You and me, we came out here to hunt. You remember that?" I did. God help me, I did. "We got lost," Vaughn continued, "and when we found that old cabin, you said we'd stay the night. You said we'd be safe. But when they came," he took a step closer, "when they came, you ran. You left me in that cabin. You heard me screaming and you kept running. I was going to get help." "You changed your name," Vaughn said. "You moved 3 states away. You married a woman who doesn't even know your real last name. You built a whole new life on top of mine." He raised his watch. On it was my watch, the one I'd lost that night. "But the woods don't forget, Johnny, and a debt unpaid, it compounds." I heard movement behind me. I turned. Madeline was standing there, but her face was wrong. Her expression was too slack, her eyes too wide. She tilted her head at an angle that made my stomach drop. "Madeline?" I whispered. She smiled, and when she opened her mouth, Vaughn's voice came out. "You didn't just leave me, Johnny. You traded me. You whispered my name into the dark when they asked for payment. You gave them me so you could leave." I looked down at Cynthia. She was staring up at me with the same empty expression. "No," I choked. "No, this isn't real. You're not—" "We're as real as you let us be," Madeline said in that terrible flat voice. "And you brought us here, Johnny. You led us right back to the hollow, right back to the place where debts get collected." Vaughn stepped forward and placed something in my hand. It was cold and smooth. My old high school class ring, the one I'd left in the cabin 10 years ago, on Vaughn's finger, because I thought if I left something of mine behind, they'd be satisfied. "The woods keep the receipts, and now they keep your family." I'm writing this from a motel 6 miles outside Blackwood Creek. The police found me wandering the highway at dawn, babbling about deaths and cabins and footprints. They searched the hollow for 3 days. They found our campsite. They found the SUV with the carving on the hood. They didn't find Madeline. They didn't find Cynthia. They didn't find any footprints except mine. The detective said it's possible I had a psychotic break, that I did something to my family and blocked it out. They're watching me, waiting for me to slip. But I know the truth. I check the perimeter of my motel room every night. I keep the lights on. I don't sleep. Because 2 nights ago, I heard a knock at the door. When I looked through the peephole, I saw Cynthia standing there in her pink jacket, smiling. She was holding a white stone in each hand, and behind her, in the parking lot, I saw them, dozens of them, barefoot, silent, waiting. I never used to check the perimeter of my house before going to bed. I never thought I had to. But now I know, some doors, once opened, can never be closed, and some debts can only be paid in full.